The true story of this girl's evil uncle who ruined her life.
Have you ever felt so lonely that you wanted to give up on life?
Oh.
I hope not, but you can probably imagine how I felt as a kid being raised by my uncle who acted like I didn't exist.
That's not really nice. Look at her all alone there with the teddy bear.
It all started when my parents decided to leave the country. They wanted to start a new life, but unfortunately, I wasn't part of their plan.
What? They wanted to start a new life without you involved, but they're your parents. Why even have a kid?
They decided I should live with my uncle, but when they brought me to his home,
He's not the one who had a kid. Maybe you should raise the kid that you birthed. Just saying.
he didn't want me. My parents and he started screaming at each other, and in the end, my dad had to give him a bunch of money in exchange for letting me live with him.
I mean, I would be upset too if my sister showed up and was like, hey, raise my child for me. I mean, I would probably still do it, but I'd be like, what?
I was only 8 years old, and I haven't seen my parents ever since.
Oh, really?
All I know is that their flight was going somewhere to Europe. You can probably imagine that my parents had never loved me very much, but they were still hundreds of times better than my uncle.
Oh man, I feel bad already. How much worse can her uncle be? Her parents sound like the worst.
He was a cold and emotionless man. He barely even acknowledged my existence.
Look at his aura. It's like...
It's an evil.
The only time he talked to me was when he gave me orders like to clean the bathroom or wash his clothes.
She's your niece, not your maid.
Desperate for love or some kind of connection, that my stuffed animal Theo became my best friend.
I wanna hug her.
I talked to him for hours because I had no one else who loved or cared about me. My uncle also never signed me up for school, so I ended up spending a whole year not leaving my uncle's apartment and only eating the rest of his meals.
That allowed?
At one point, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed someone to talk to and walked outside. I was only 9 and hadn't felt the sunlight on my skin in more than 12 months.
This is so sad! Girl, I wanna help you.
I felt overwhelmed and scared by all the noises and sounds. At one point, a policeman approached me and asked if I needed help.
Yes.
I responded,
Yes.
I'm okay.
No,
But
don't
he didn't believe me.
say yes. I can
Probably because I hadn't washed my hair or clothes in weeks. I must have looked like I'd been homeless for years. He asked me where my parents were, and that's when things got really messy. Found out I was living with my uncle and that he hadn't taken appropriate care of me.
Wait, what happened to this couch? This couch has been torn to shreds. How does a little girl and an uncle do this to a couch? And then even the chair? This place is a disaster. Looks like there was like a tornado that went through it.
That's why the policeman that had found me brought me into an orphanage. Before he left, he promised me that soon someone would come and adopt me, and then I would have real parents who would love and take care of me. But I waited for 2 months, and no one came to adopt me.
I mean, it takes time, unfortunately.
The other kids inside the orphanage called me the dirty or the weird girl. So again, I ended up feeling lonely, spending most of my time with my teddy bear, Theo.
So
But
rude.
then, after 3 months, the same policeman that had saved me from my uncle's home came back into the orphanage to look for me. He wanted to know if I had found a new family, and he wasn't alone. He had brought his wife with him. It felt so good to see him again, even though I was too shy to talk to him, but I could feel that he cared about me. When he said, "My wife and I have thought about this for a long time, and we wanted to ask you if you would like to become our daughter and be a part of our family." I wanted to scream, yes, yes! But after years of neglect, I was too shy and couldn't bring out a word.
Oh no.
In the end, he told me to think about it, and that he would come back the next week to ask me again.
Oh no, he probably thinks she's not interested, but she wants to. She's just too scared to say yes.
But while he and his wife were on their way out, I quickly drew a painting and ran after them. When I had stopped them, I showed them my drawing.
She's a really fast drawer.
It was me holding both their hands, and I had written Mom and Dad over them. It was the only way I could express myself. I still remember how they both took me into their arms. It felt so warm and so good to be touched by another human being. It felt like years of pain were being healed inside my body. Afterward, my new parents went back into the orphanage to sign the papers to adopt me, and by the next day, I was living with them in their home.
Yes!
They didn't have a bed for me, so I had to sleep right between them. But of course I didn't mind, because for the first time I could remember, I didn't feel lonely or abandoned.
No.
My adoptive parents give me endless amounts of love, and there's nothing more important for a kid than to be loved.
It's true.
I just wanted to say thank you to my dad and my mom. You have literally saved me, and therefore you will always be my heroes. Thank you so much.
That was so sweet. That policeman, he is a real life hero. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of them wear police officer uniforms. Bonus story.
Hi, I'm Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
And this is my story. One day I got a message from my mom while I was in class. I just read it in my notifications instead of opening it. It said, "Tom has left. Come over now." Tom is my dad's name. I was shocked. This message clearly wasn't meant for me. My heart pounded as I considered the possibilities.
What are the possibilities?
Was my mom having an affair? I wrote back asking my mom about the message, but she'd already deleted it from our chat.
That's so sus. She just deleted the message. I hope her mom's not doing that. This is really awkward. How is she gonna deal with this? Does she have to confront her mom? Does she have to tell her dad? Are they gonna be okay?
And she told me it was just a mistake. She was being so shady. I knew she had to be cheating on my dad.
Oh.
I was so angry I could barely breathe. I told the teacher I didn't feel well and left class.
Her teachers let her leave class like that? My teachers were not that chill. They'd be like, deal with it.
I bolted home, determined to find out what was going on. I hid in some bushes by my house where I could see the driveway. I had my camera ready.
She's playing private investigator, gonna take photos of any evidence.
I had no idea what I would do once I found out who my mom's mystery man was.
I don't know what you're gonna do either, girl.
How could I
I'm
tell
scared.
my dad? He'd be devastated. Especially since things had been going so well for him recently. He'd just gotten a big promotion at work and had been walking around whistling. He was so happy.
Aw, she doesn't want to make him unhappy when he's happy. Nobody wants to ruin somebody's happiness. Sometimes you gotta protect people.
And what would I say to my mom? I wanted to scream at her. Finally, a familiar SUV parked across the street several houses down. That confused me even more.
Familiar? You know this person? The plot thickens!
How did I know that car? Then the driver got out. It was my Uncle Jim.
Not your Uncle Jim!
AKA her dad's brother. His flesh and blood.
If I'd thought I was angry before, it was nothing compared to now. How could my mom cheat on my dad with his own brother? I tried to think back to family gatherings we'd had. Had my mom and Uncle Jim ever seemed too friendly?
Did they?
Had they ever snuck away together?
Oh.
I couldn't remember. My dad was going to be so furious.
He's gonna be so sad.
He might not even believe it. I barely believed it myself. But what other explanation was there for my mom's message?
Gotta take
And
pictures.
for my uncle parking so far away, like he didn't want to be seen. I started snapping pictures of Uncle Jim walking up to the house.
This is so awkward. Maybe she should confront Uncle Jim. I don't know.
I wished I'd screenshotted my mom's accidental message to me. Once he was inside, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to take more pictures through the window, but was afraid I'd overhear something I definitely didn't want to hear.
Yeah, ew. We don't want that.
Finally, I gathered my courage and went to the window, peering in carefully. My mom was pouring champagne into flutes. She handed one to Jim.
Maybe they're just talking. Just a little bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. You know? Ain't nothing wrong with it yet.
My eyes filled
Let's
with
not
tears
panic.
as
Let's
I
not panic.
realized I hadn't been wrong.
What do you mean? She's just pouring her in my glass. Nothing's happening yet. Let's stay positive.
My mom really was romantically involved with Uncle Jim.
She also thick.
I snapped a couple of pictures, then ran back to the bushes. I started rehearsing my speech to my mom, but I couldn't get any further than, "How could you?" I tried rehearsing my speech to my dad instead. I've got some really bad news about Mom.
It's
I
tough.
didn't want to be the one to tell him.
Gotta.
But he deserved to know.
He does deserve to know.
I was almost crying with anger as I wondered what would happen to our family now.
Oh no! This is so hard, but also, like, what are you gonna say? Mom poured your brother a glass of champagne. Like, I don't know if like you really got enough evidence. I guess the text was kind of shady. Why would she delete it?
Would he and Mom get divorced? Who would I live with? I hoped my dad, since I'd never be able to trust my mom again. But What if my mom hated me for telling him? I was mad at her, but I didn't want her to stop loving me.
Okay, she's not gonna stop loving you. I'm sure she'll be upset that you told her, but if that's what she's really doing, it's kind of her fault, you know?
Maybe I shouldn't say anything and try to get my dad to figure it out on his own.
That could be a plan. Make it seem like he figured it out on his own.
By the time my dad arrived home, I was in a panic. Uncle Jim still hadn't left. I couldn't let my dad just walk in on them. He needed to be prepared. I raced up onto the front porch as he was putting the key into the door. I had my phone ready so I could show him the pictures. He was startled to see me. "Hey, Kara," he said, turning the key and pushing the door open.
Oh no! He's walking in on himself! Oh
"I didn't know you were out here." "Don't go in there," I told him, trying to grab his arm as he stepped inside. "I have to tell you." But just then, my mom and uncle and a bunch of my dad's friends yelled, "Surprise!"
no! It's a surprise party! Wow. That was not what I was expecting. This girl freaked out for no reason. This was fully a surprise party the whole time. Why would you jump to the conclusion that you did? Of course it was a surprise party. But I have questions.
They were standing in the kitchen next to a huge cake, holding flutes of champagne. Uncle Jim handed one to my dad, slapping him on the shoulder. "Congratulations on the promotion, little brother," my uncle said. My dad looked shocked, but not as shocked as I was.
Yeah, girl, you jumped to hella conclusions. But I do have one question. How did she see nobody else get into the house? Like she was in the bush watching. How did she miss all these people coming to the house? Unless they were there before already and she didn't see them when she looked in the window. Didn't see the whole party.
This had been a surprise party for my dad all along. And if I'd paid attention to all the cars parked on the street,
those weren't
I would
there.
have seen that a lot of them belonged to family members.
Those weren't there before. We're going back. Because I'm not buying the fact that they weren't there before. So either they hadn't arrived yet and she didn't see anybody arrive, or there's something fishy going on here.
My dad was walking around thinking and hugging everyone, and I just stood there feeling so stupid.
I bet.
My mom spotted me and said, "Hey, Caroline, I didn't expect you home yet. I thought you had practice after school." My face got hot.
Why wouldn't they want their own daughter at the party though? Why was the mom trying to hide the party from her daughter? Wouldn't she have just told her daughter? That's another part of the story that just doesn't quite line up.
I didn't want to tell her what I'd thought. "Yeah, it's canceled. I didn't know you were throwing a party for Dad." "Yes, we're so proud of him," my mom said, kissing my father.
Cute.
I was so relieved by the familiar sight of my parents and love. "Well, come on in, Caroline, and get some cake." So that's how I learned not to jump to conclusions and to be careful about sticking my nose where it doesn't belong.
Wise words, Caroline. Wise words. I can't believe she just thought her mom was cheating, but it was just a surprise party. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I love you all so much. Stay awesome, stay sweet, and don't forget to be nice to each other. Bye.